Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is a handover of the Swift Carerra 194. This is your external shower point, so if you are hosing off the dog, the bikes, the boots, which comes with the vehicle is a hose. One end is a push fit, other end is a trigger gun, and as long as the pump's on inside the van, you've got a pressurised flow of water to hose off the bikes, the boots or the dog. This is your freshwater drain, so it's an electronic controlled valve from inside the van on a switch. So should you need to drain off your wastewater, all you need to do is drive over the grid and let this out. This is any water that you've used from the sink, hand basin or shower. Make sure you get rid of this before you leave site to mean that you're lighter on weight and that you're not lugging around a full tank of wastewater with you. For your cassette toilet, release the door by pushing it's lockable, so make sure it's open first with a habitation key. Push both catches in, release the door. Then lift the orange handle up and slide the cassette free of the motorhome. You can either carry it or you can wheel it, depending on how heavy it is. And then to empty, all you need to do is remove the grey cap, pop that to one side, tip out the contents of the cassette, and once you're tipping it, start to push the orange button. Once you've done that, you can then put some water in, give it a quick rinse, tip out again, which is normally a tap beside the Elson point on site, and then you would go in with your cap full of chemical, which is either green or blue, which is 120 ml into here, or one tablet if you're using the tablets in a pint of water. Push it into the vehicle and then you can use the toilet again. The toilet will indicate once it's full on the switch beside your freshwater flush button. To hook the vehicle up, so whether you're charging it at home or you're on a site, you'd get the hooker bleed, lift the collar, lift the point on the van, connect the vehicle first, then the site, and do it in reverse order when unhooking so that you're never walking around with a live lead. So on the back of the vehicle, this one has the option of the fuel bike rack. So make sure that this is an option for this particular customer. They don't all come with a fuel bike rack, but to use this, you would pull it down. You would move your chocks, depending on how big your bikes are, along. Chock, put your wheel in there, put your straps through the spokes to tie your wheels down, and use the arms for the crossbar. So you've got the shorter one for the one closest to the back door and the longer one for the one furthest away. Make sure you put your bikes the opposite ways so the handlebars don't clash. And then once you've got your bikes on, it's always good practice to put a bike lock around the bike, so if you leave the vehicle unattended, your bikes are still there when you get back. Making sure they don't catch when you put it back away, you'd push that back like so. Make sure your bike arms are flat, and then on the bottom you have your rear parking distance sensors. To operate your gas, make sure that before you connect your pigtail, which is this pipe here, you put your strap and collar around the bottle. So there's a little collar that goes around the collar of the gas bottle. Pop that on first, and then you want to tighten the bottle up, and then you want to connect your pigtail, which is left to tighten, right to loosen, opposite ways with the being gas, before turning it on 1 or 2 turns on the top of the cylinder. And on here, which is your regulator, you've got a crash sensor, and if this black nib in the center pops out, you need to do a 10-second reset. So it tells you all about it here, but all you would do is press and hold for 10 seconds until that button stays flush, and that allows the gas through into the vehicle. Without that, the gas won't go any further than the regulator. You've got space for 2 bottles, 2 6 propanes. Don't run it on butane. Butane will freeze in the winter, whereas propane you can use all year round, and the motorhome and regulator is set up for propane. But make sure both bottles are tied in, and make sure it's turned off before you start driving. To fill your fresh water, you lift this point up here, which is lockable. So make sure you've locked it once you've filled the fresh water. So pop your hose in there and fill it until it overflows, or until you look on the control panel and think you've got enough water on board. But you put the flat end in here. You'll need a hose with some other hose pipe connections for the tap, as it's mainly just a brass tap provided by the site. Or if you're filling from an aqua roll or a bucket of water, you've got a 12-volt point there for a submersible wheel pump. So you put the power in there, one end in here, and the pump into the water, and it'll suck the water from the barrel into the main freshwater tank. But most of the time you'll use a hose, flat end into here, connect it to the tap, fill it until you're happy there's enough water on board. Once you're happy, slide this down and lock this point so that nobody can lift up and tamper with your freshwater supply. Underneath the sliding door is where you'll find your freshwater drain. So should you have taken on a source of contaminated water, drain it down for the winter, or just simply not using it for a couple of months or weeks, inside the van there's a switch which opens the valve which allows this water to drain out. Make sure it's left open and drained in the winter so no water can freeze and cause any damage that would void any warranties with your freshwater tank. At the passenger door is where you'll find the location of your diesel filler. So this opens with the main ignition key, and then underneath, because it's a new Euro 6 styled engine, it does take AdBlue, so it's 19 litres on a Ducato. It will tell you on the dash when it has its last 1,000 mile of AdBlue in, and it'll give you a 1,000 mile countdown. If you simply fill it up when this comes on, which can be done at a petrol station, you can buy it on the pump now, AdBlue. It's about 120 a litre, and you can fill your AdBlue system back up. And that'll do 5,500 miles once it's full. Tyre pressures can be found on the slam panel of the passenger door. So you've got 5.5 bar front and back, which is 79.5 psi. You'll also find further up your Stage 2 Swift sticker, which is now, because it's classed as a motorhome, not a panel van or a builder's van anymore. It is a van, motorhome. So it's 3.5 tonne gross vehicle weight with a 6 tonne train weight. So the motorhome and whatever you're towing can't exceed 6 tonnes. So you've got a 2,500 braked towing limit on this motorhome. Underneath the seat you'll find the location of your leisure battery. So that's your leisure battery there, and you've got another one underneath the driver's seat. Underneath this compartment in the floor is where the engine battery lives on the Ducato. So if you ever need to change the battery in years to come, it does have to be lifted out the cab floor. It's not underneath the bonnet, but the bonnet release is on the side of the dash. Now underneath the bonnet, the main fluid you're going to need, which is on the side of the driver's headlight, is your screen wash. Then you can remove this compartment by lifting the tabs out, which you have your coolant and your brake fluid. You've got your oil filler. You've got no dipstick as it's electronically now, so the dashboard will tell you when the van needs oil. The same as there's no power steering fluid because there's an electronic steering rack. You've got your paint code. And then should you ever need to jump start the vehicle, the earthen point's here. And next to the air filter, if you put your key or something flat in here, screwdriver, anything, lift this up. This is your positive for giving or receiving a jump start. To operate your 12-volt control panel, you turn it on here. It's a touch screen. And then you go into lighting, and you can turn on your entry light. You can turn on your awning light, and you can dim your dimmable lights. So you need to turn them on first, which is here, and then you can go up and down with the scale and dim it down to the brightness you want, which is throughout the vehicle. So there's a strip light there at the back and here. Once you've done the lights, you can do the power, so you can view your trailer battery, which is your leisure battery. Picture of a trailer there. So it's saying good, and it's saying that the voltage is at 14.1 volts. That is a charging rate. So unhook the vehicle, get a true reflection of the battery. And that's the current currently coming off the battery, which is nothing because we've just got lights on. It's charging the van battery at the moment, but you don't want to charge the van battery. You want to charge the leisure battery when using it. So you would press here and it'll start to charge the leisure battery. You can charge the vehicle battery when the vehicle's stood around on the driveway over the winter time and you're not using it, so you're giving both batteries a fair amount of charge, which is recommended, which is just by pressing here. So that's charging. That's the vehicle battery levels. The solar panel goes to sleep when the vehicle is hooked up, and it will swap between the leisure and the vehicle, but it's always going to be going to the vehicle when it's hooked up, because it's trying to put the charge in, which it's not, because as it says there, it's saying 0.0 amp. It knows when the vehicle's hooked up not to charge through the solar panel. It goes to sleep, and that goes back round. You can then go on to the water settings, so you can view your fresh water level of 50%. When you're using the water, you need to turn the pump on. The pump pressurizes the water system, so it gives you a pressurized flow of water to the taps, toilet, shower, exterior shower. Without that, you'll not get a pressurized flow of water. And it does tell you your waste, which is 0 at the moment. Going into environment, it tells you your internal temperature, humidity and exterior temperature. And then you've got your settings there where you can turn on the key, you can turn off this key beep. Tells you your comms unit, your IMEI number in there. To operate your hot water first, this is your heating. You've got frost start, which is a picture of a snowflake, which keeps the water above freezing at 5 degrees. You've got your gas heating level, and then you've got your water, your hot water on electric at the far end. So starting off with gas, you would press here and then you would select gas. Give that a moment and that'll go orange, but that's telling you that it's already at temperature. So it's as far as it'll go here on gas. This will drop down when you've used it, and it'll go back up to tell you the water's ready once it's at full temperature as shown now. However, if I run some cold water, if I run the hot water and I mix it with cold, this will drop down and then it'll start to heat and then rise back up once the 10 litres of water is back to temperature. Whereas on electric, you can go right the way around and you can turn the electric on, and you've got 1 dot, which is 6 amp, which is 750 watts of mains power. You've got 2 dots, which is 1850 watts, 2 kilowatts of power. And you've got 3 dots, which is 3000 watts, which is a 16 amp feed. So it all depends, but what I like to do is just leave it on 2, because most sites throughout the UK give you a 10 amp feed. However, when you go abroad, they might be more stringent with the electric and you might have to turn it down. And that's exactly the same on the heating, but the heating, so the gas and electric's the same, but you've got frost start, which keeps the vehicle above 5 degrees. You've got nighttime mode, which keeps the vehicle at 15 degrees. And then you can go right the way around to a max of 30 degrees. Turn the electric on and the gas. And then you've got a reset button here. So if you get a red exclamation mark, you can reset it by pressing and holding. But always get into a habit of once the space heater, which is this one here, has been on, you knock it off like so, so they don't light up. You listen for the fan. If the fan is whirring, let it do its cycle of shutting the boiler down correctly before it goes silent, before knocking off the 12 volt or starting the engine. It just gives the system the right shutting down procedure of blowing all the hot air out the boiler before closing it off. Otherwise you don't want to trap hot air in the space heater, which is part of your boiler system. And once the hot water has cooled down on the gas, as you can see there, it's dropped down from the temperature set and the gas flame is on, so it's warming the water back up to the gas temperature, which is 10 litres at about 60 degrees. This just demonstrates that your hot water is working as the water is up to temperature. This shows that your gas burners are working and the right size pan, so it's a 16mm 160mm pan this side, 16 centimeters, and a 22 centimeter pan this side. Make sure you stick to the maximum pan size provided so that you don't put too much strain on the burner and cause any issues. Beneath you do have a oven and grill, so you've got an ignition and a light. So as you can see there that the oven is on, and then if you turn it the other way, the grill is on. You may have to hold the knob in a little bit longer just so that the burner warms up and then the grill will stay lit. To drain off your fresh and waste water, inside the vehicle you have two switches. On this model it is, which is the 194, it is in the kitchen cupboard above the sink. You've got a three-way position switch. So orange light shows that it's closed. Middle is open, no strain, which means you can leave it open in the winter, and there's not constantly going to be a 12-volt feed trying to open that valve. So just open. You can leave it like this when storing the van, and then top is open, and you can hear it whining in the background, and it's opening the valve. So we've got closed, open, no strain, open with the valve, and that is ejecting the water out the system on the red. So when winterizing, just leave the button in the middle position, and when using it, have it down to the bottom with the valve closed, which shows orange for closed, red for open. To operate your Dometic 12-volt compressor fridge, to turn the unit on and off, you press and hold, and you can turn it off, and you can turn it back on, and this runs solely off the leisure battery. So when you hooked up, that's charging. When you're wild camping, you would already have it charged up. To adjust the temperature, it highlights the temperature gauge there. Press enter, and you can scroll up. So when pre-chilling, have it on 5. Once you put your shopping in, you may want to turn it down, as sometimes it can cause the shopping to freeze inside the fridge as it's too strong. But that works solely off the leisure battery, as it's a 12-volt compressor fridge, and these get really cold really quick, a lot quicker than the standard three-way fridges fitted to most motorhomes on the market. When not using it, you want to leave the door open, and the beauty with this fridge is you can open the door either way. So if you are cooking, you can get this side, or if you're in the back of the van, you want a drink, you can open it from this side. But when parking the van away for the winter, you just want to ensure that it's left open, and there's a little nib just here which you can pull out. It's a bit fiddly, but this pulls out here and it allows you to slot it onto there, and it keeps the door open. So this is your fridge retainer to open the door when winterizing, to leave it open. So you just open that, that'll click onto the little pin there and stop the door from closing on itself, and you'll be able to drive and travel around as normal with this locked in air circulation in and out of the fridge. So at the back of the Carerra 194 you do have your two single beds, which make a double bed across the width of the vehicle, or they can be used as singles from front to back. So now in your combined washroom, to operate your toilet, what you need to do is you need to press the blue button at the back, which gives you a freshwater flush. Making sure the pump's on, you'll get some fresh water. Put a small amount of water in the bowl before you use it, and then before you use the toilet you want to open the blade, which is a grey lever on the pedestal of the toilet. So slide that to the back of the van to the right, use the toilet, flush it after use. If you've bought any pink liquid, the pink liquid can't go into a separate header tank, as this vehicle doesn't have one. It's fed off the main freshwater tank. However, what you can do is you can put the pink into a spray bottle, so much pink, so much water, dilute it, keep a bottle beside the toilet, spray the bowl. It's a bowl cleaner and a sterilizer, neutralizer for smells. Spray the bowl again, flush, and then close the blade. Always get into a habit of closing the blade after use, because if this blade's left open, the cassette's not coming out the side of the van. And when the cassette is full, you'll get a red light underneath the diagram here to say that the cassette is full and requires to be emptied. Make sure that when you drive as well, with the concertina door, there's a little strap here. This needs to be put on the press stud to stop this from sliding when driving. There's a hanging rail for wet towels, but also doubles up great for wet coats. So you can put that in there, or extra hanging space when you're travelling. Your sink slides out and you've got your hand basin. That's red hot there. Make sure once you've used it, you just tip it back slowly, as the water needs to drain away first before you tip it back. And in the winter, should I say first, this is your light switch on the ceiling. If you're looking for the switch, it's there. But in the winter, what you want to do is when you winterize the vehicle, so you've drained the fresh, you've drained the waste, you open all the taps within the van, you open your boiler, which we'll get onto in a minute in the video, and then you turn your pump on for 10 seconds to blow any water out any lines before turning it off and leaving it all drained down for the winter. You want to ensure that you remove the shower head from this hose so that any water in here doesn't freeze. And to do that, you would remove the head and you would lie the hose down in the shower tray to stop the water from freezing. And one little top tip, be careful of what you clean all this plastic out with. The shower tray, the toilet, the surround, it is only plastic. You can't use any scourers or bleach as you'll damage it. Use Dettol, use a bit of Dettol spray, some Fairy Up liquid and a microfiber cloth. It's good enough to clean out your shower tray. Don't use any harsh chemicals as you will damage the finish. So in the back, underneath the garage, there's a little trim panel which pushes in here and pops back underneath the bottom drawer on the driver's side. This is where your winter drain down tap is located. So you need to drain the vehicle down when we're experiencing colder weather in the winter when not using the van. So if you're using it, you're fine, but if you're not using it and it's parked up on the driveway or in the storage yard, it's best practice to drain the vehicle off. So when the yellow tap is pointing to the back of the van, it's holding the water. If you point it to the passenger side, the water drains directly out underneath the van. You want to drain this off, you want to drain the fresh and the waste tanks off, leave them open, leave this open, open all the taps within the van and remove the shower head from the shower hose so that you don't collect any water in that pipe. Turn the pump on for 10 seconds to blast any water out of any pipelines throughout the vehicle and then leave the van. When you come to reuse it, you want to prime the system. So all you need to do is do it all in reverse. So shut the boiler, shut the fresh, shut the waste, shut all the taps, assemble the shower hose, fill the van with water via a hose pipe, turn the pump on and go to the cold side of the tap first. As soon as you go to the hot or start to mix the mixer tap with hot water, it'll cough, splutter, make all sorts of noises until you get a pressurized flow from the hot side of the tap. Once you've got that, your system is primed. You need to start with one tap, so start with the kitchen, then do the hand basin, then the shower. Once they're all done, the system is primed. But it's very important that you drain the system down so that you don't become a victim of frost damage, because unfortunately it's not covered by the Swift warranty. It's your responsibility as a customer to drain the vehicle down and protect it against frost. So just beside the bed, if you open this cabinet, you do have your consumer unit. So this is your EC400 Sergeant Supply unit. So on the top there, you've got a system shutdown button, which is a battery isolation switch for your leisure battery. So you can turn that off if you want to stop a power drain, which is this black button here. Underneath you've got all your 12 volt fuses, so do carry some spare blade fuses with you. The standard, they're not micro, standard fuses. It'll illuminate red if one has blown, and they all are listed here on the door on what fuse does what. This side you've got your trips, so you've got your main trip. So if you think you're not receiving power, the best way to try is if you can trip the van. If you can trip the van, you've got power. If you trip the van and it's not tripping, you haven't got power. You've got your MCBs there for your following, and you do have your two 30 volt fuse spur for your charger, which charges the leisure battery or vehicle battery when hooked up, depending on what's selected. And you've got your heating and hot water switch there, so that needs to be on to use the electric side of the heating and hot water. But that side is, this switch is for just the heating. The one above here at the back, you've got a fuse spur, and that is for the water heater on electric. So if you've drained the vehicle down and you've still charging the van over the winter, you can turn that off so that you can't accidentally knock that on above the door. So that is a fuse spur for the water heater on mains 240 electric. In the cupboard over the bed, you do have your Truma solar panel MTTP, which is your solar controller. So that is charging the leisure battery when the vehicle is not hooked up. When the vehicle is hooked up, it goes to sleep. But as you can see there, it is green, which means it's charging the battery, and there's a fuse on the bottom. So if these lights ever don't light up and we've had too much sun, sometimes they can pop the fuse. So do carry some spare blade fuses with you, and you can replenish the fuse at the bottom of the MPPT solar charge controller. At the back of the van as well, these beds are able to be lifted up. There's 2 bars underneath, and they do clip back onto here when raised, so that you can put your mountain bikes and your other bits and pieces in when travelling. And once you get to your site, you can get your things in that are inside the van out and drop your beds down. Your radio system in the cab is wireless, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so all you need to do is connect your phone via Bluetooth to the Uconnect. So you want to find Uconnect on, so you go here, it's got digital radio, so all you need to press is pair. So you go add device, search for devices, and you want to search when this is searching for you. So you want to go into your phone settings, search for that as it's searching for you, and you'll connect on your phone. It'll ask you if you want to allow your contacts to be saved, press yes. It'll download your phone book, and it'll ask you if you want to use Apple CarPlay if you're an iPhone user, and ask you if you want to use Android Auto if it's an Android device that you're pairing. Radio is DAB, press browse, press all, and you can view all the DAB stations with FM linking. If you did want FM, all you need to do is go to source and change it to FM. And then you do have your settings, which you've got to have your key and your ignition for that, to view your trips and all your vehicle settings, which are all in the Fiat handbook.